Ladies, gents, how's it going? Random Gary here. I'm back again, hopefully this time. Forgive me if I keep looking at the camera to make sure it's still working. Back, hopefully this time, with the reaction to the Jessica Buchanan video. So this is the first one where I've watched it before. I apologize. I had equipment malfunction. Always blame the equipment, not the operator. And let's just roll through this again. There we go. I found my mouse. That's a miracle. It's gonna go all right. But let's check it out. Let's see this incredible story. This is unreal.
We stopped very abruptly, like so abruptly that I felt like everybody just fall forward. And then I start hearing all of this pounding on the windows and the windshield and all this shouting in Somali. And there's a man standing there screaming, and he has an AK-47 and he's shouting and he's pointing it.
I don't know about you guys, but if you're in a place like Somalia and somebody comes up to your vehicle waving a gun, I'd run the risk of driving through. I know it's easy to say, but I think if you stop, you are so reliant, credible people coming to get you. Whereas if you drive through, at least you're giving yourself a chance. I would far rather die driving through an ambush than on a video. Somebody stood over me preaching away before they ended it. I would far rather go out on my feet than I would on my knees. Absolutely.
At us. And then he climbs into the car next to me and he points an AK in my face. And they're hyped up like they're on speed. And all of a sudden we just take off. The driver just takes off and we just start slamming all over the place down these camel tracks.
What did you think they were going to do?
I figured they were going to rape me.
Even if you're a bloke, you should be prepared for this outcome as well. It's not what you would imagine. They're not, from what we were briefed, they're not doing it for any gratification. It's to assert power and dominance, just to show that they are completely in control. Horrible.
And
horrible.
then kill me. And I just keep thinking, this can't be the end. This can't be the end of my life. I'm only 32 years old. I haven't had any children yet.
Just a kid. 32.
I didn't get to say goodbye to Eric. I didn't get to say goodbye to my dad. Like, this can't be the end.
Jessica Buchanan was facing the end at the end of the earth. Somalia, on the farthest tip of Africa, is war-torn and lawless.
This is essentially no man's land.
Militia.
Yeah, fair play to him for getting out there. Look at this here. I know it's great that he's surrounded with armed people, but anybody who's ever been in an ambush or a troops in contact incident will tell you that whenever you're in the vehicle and you're on the enemy's terms, you're in their killing zone. Those weapons inside your own open-top vehicle are not going to do anything. You need to have some form of cover, which they do not have. And ideally, you need a mounted platform, something where you can keep your head down and gauge the life out of these firing points, just to give you a fighting chance of getting out. Sitting up in the back of an open wagon is going to do nothing.
Battle over an unforgiving land, as we saw while covering a famine there in 2011. It was the same year.
And this is the thing that annoys me. See these kids starving, they've got no food, they've got very little water. It is absolutely tragic. Yet these people who see themselves as freedom fighters and therefore the people, they can resupply their ammunition, their water, their food, all of their equipment. They can do that no problem. Yet the locals are starving. So what is their focus on? Are they really freedom fighting for the people? I would say absolutely not. They are doing nothing.
That Buchanan was with a Danish charity teaching children how to avoid landmines. On October 25th, her car was hijacked.
The driver is driving like just a madman. We're bouncing all over the place. My head keeps hitting the window. It keeps hitting the roof. I'm holding on to the side, the handle on the Land Cruiser, just trying to keep myself steady.
What happened next?
It gets dark and we've changed vehicles a couple of times. More people have come.
Sounds like it was rehearsed. So the vehicle's been ambushed at a random point, and there's been multiple gunmen. Somebody's jumped in and started driving quite fast and quite rapid. That normally makes me think that they're going somewhere and they need to be somewhere quickly. They've changed vehicles multiple times. This isn't just a chance kidnapping. This is pre-planned, premeditated, and with people who sound like they. Let's give them some credit. They know to some degree what they're doing.
They're screaming, and I hear from behind me a higher pitched voice going on in Somali, and I think, my God, they have a woman involved in this. And I turn around and I see a small child in the back of the Land Cruiser with an AK-47 draped in ammunition. And I think the irony of why I came to Africa in the first place.
Horrific, isn't it? Our British troops experienced this in Sierra Leone, against the West Side Boys, heavily intoxicated with both drugs and alcohol, my understanding. And you would have very, very young kids as fighting troops. And it was, from what I understand, it was quite strange because they weren't just the average grunt, as we would say, the normal infantry soldier. Some of them were leaders. They had these leaders, and you just, your heart goes out to some degree to them because the humanification, is that a word? This humanification process that they must have gone through for them end up in this kind of situation where they're taking lives and people. It's horrific because in the West we are so used to wanting to protect and look after kids. Yeah, let's not beat about the bush. Ultimately, they could take your life or your mate's life, and there's a real difficulty there in being able to do what is the right thing as the Western troops. This kid with a weapon system. We say kid. However, they're still an enemy soldier and they're a real prominent threat. And yeah, I'm glad I was never put in that situation myself. So glad.
Exactly the kid you were trying to save, a child soldier.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
Learning the trade.
She'd been kidnapped along with a co-worker, Paul Fisted. They drove into the night and then were ordered to march into the desert.
And they tell us to get down onto our knees. And I think, okay, this is it. Like, I'm bracing myself to be shot in the back of the head.
What do you do? What do you do in this situation? Do you kneel down and accept what's about to come? Do you die on your feet? For me, on your feet all day, every day. It's not a case of being brave and, trying to get away or anything like that there. It's just the fact of, I feel like if you get down, you're going to get killed. You're going to get executed. So what's the difference of you dying, at least trying to get away? It's the lesser of the two evils, in my opinion.
And I think that there's mercy in the fact that maybe they're not going to rape me first, but that it's just going to be quick. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And then all of a sudden somebody shouts from behind us, "Sleep." And I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't hear that correctly, did I? He just said sleep.
So here you go. I would have probably been killed in this situation, whereas these guys are survivors. So don't always listen to my advice, my opinion. Let's be honest, what I got my Gallantry award for, I wouldn't advise anybody to do it. So yeah, this is just me speaking. I am not an expert. The only kind of resistance to interrogation and kind of hostage training I've had is the basic military MATS. It's the qualification we do every year. It's a thing called SEER, so survive, evade, escape, resist. Is it? I don't even remember. Survive. evade, resist, escapes. Nah, can't remember. This is my medication hitting me right now. Ask me anything about artillery, I'm on it. Yeah, I can't remember the simple stuff. But yeah, all we were taught was the basics, the really high level stuff of what to do if you've ever been captured. And like I say, don't listen to my opinion.
He collapsed, slept through the night, and the next morning was met by the man who led the bandits.
And we ask him, "Are you going to kill us? Is that why we're here?" And he says, "No, no, no, no. Money. We just want money."
How much were they asking for?
They started out at $45 million.
They thought you were pretty valuable.
I guess so.
The bandits used her cell phone to call her husband, Eric Landemam. The two had married on an African beach 2 years before. But his number and the numbers of Buchanan's family had all been disconnected. It was part of the charity's emergency plan.
Whoever's advising this charity is fantastic. This is amazing to hear. It must have been somebody with a lot of experience, some military experience. This is just music to my ears. Quite often, in hostage situations, the families would be the first kind of people to hear if these steps had not taken place. And can you imagine being the families, and then the families then getting in touch with the charity, and then having to go all through the rounds and brief everybody up on what's going on? Horrific. But the charity here, I cannot sing her praises enough, despite them putting people in places like Somalia, which is really, really dangerous, and I don't know if I could do that, irrespective of the cause. But they pulled a good one. This is great.
The one number that worked was her Nairobi office with a hostage negotiator standing by.
Fantastic.
And so began months of talks.
Where did they keep you? Day in, day out?
Under trees. And outside.
You were outdoors for 93 days?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in the night, they forced us to sleep out in the open.
What were the nights like?
Long and cold. Then the rainy season hit, and it would rain all night long, and you're already freezing, so then you're sitting there wet.
What were you eating?
Tuna fish, maybe once a day. We would get a small can of tuna fish and a piece of bread.
Did you feel like you were beginning to lose your humanity at any point?
Yeah, I mean, they treated us like animals. To be so sick that, you're vomiting behind bushes and you can't walk straight, and you're laying in the fetal position on the ground under a tree, and they don't care. Their duty was to keep me from dying, because then I wasn't worth anything.
They were in the hands of men and boys who were chewing khat. It's a plant with the same effect as amphetamines.
This happens across. It tends to actually happen across quite a lot of the countries where we would be involved against. We would class as nasty people all over the place, quite rife, and yeah. I've heard stories of people being so high on this that they've taken multiple rounds from different calibers, so it's not caliber specific, and they still carry on as if they haven't realized. So that's a bit of a challenge. But on the other hand, whenever they do this, they think they're invincible. Therefore, all of the really disciplined stuff that keeps soldiers alive, like taking cover, engaging with a couple of rounds, changing position, engaging with a couple more, they don't do any of that. They just walk out and they try to engage, making for a much simpler engagement for our side.
They were so hyped up on speed. It was like drinking pot after pot of coffee, and then the crash would come, and then it brought a lot of belligerence and a lot of anger and a lot of temper.
You and Paul came up with nicknames for a lot of the people who were keeping you. That's one of the ways you kept yourself occupied.
We did.
The 10-year-old boy?
Crack baby, because he was cracked out all the time. He was chewing khat, and he had 2 black holes for eyes. There was nothing inside.
This
You need to keep your mind occupied. You need to create some form of schedule and some form of mental kind of just mental activity. Some people mention kind of building a house. Other people say things like they imagine that they're fishing, choosing which flies to use. It's just something to keep the mind occupied, because if you just sit there and dwell on the fact that you're a hostage, got all of these people around you who are high with weapon systems, your mind will break quite quickly. And the amazing thing I hear here with Jessica is that her body broke quite a bit before her mind. Her mind wasn't amazing. It wasn't in an amazing place, but given the circumstances, her mind was strong. Her body was what was collapsing.
is one of the camps where she was held. The bandits hit her, pointed their guns at her, and put a knife to her throat. But it was exposure that took a toll. She lost 25 pounds. After 3 weeks, the bandits made a video to prove
She doesn't look like she could lose 25 pounds healthily, does she?
that she was alive.
A lot, percentage-wise.
Have you seen the video?
I have.
Paul and myself, Jessica, we are safe and we are alive.
I can tell I'm starting to lose hope at that point.
But hope would have to last for 2 more months.
As the many weeks went by, did you think the American government's watching me, they know where I am, and somebody's going to get me out of here?
In my head, from what I've heard them saying, there's one mobile phone link out, so there is a bit of a chance of a ping there. But it sounds like they're being moved so much. They're in very rural areas, staying underneath trees. Without knowing the full spectrum of military kind of surveillance and capabilities, your hopes would be pretty low, wouldn't they? You wouldn't think that anybody's coming for you whatsoever. But the great news is our military capabilities are amazing. Between the UK, the US, the Four Eyes nations, they are superb. It's among the best there is. And I think we're talking to this young lady purely because of that.
No.
Why?
Because I'm just an aid worker.
You didn't imagine that the President of the United States knew your name.
Interesting. So she thought the focus wasn't about how much information they could have. It was more about who she was. So she's seen herself as being the aid worker rather than the equipment that we could use to fix her position and to go and get her. I wouldn't have thought that. In the UK, we kind of believe that if the UK citizen's in trouble and our government can do something, they will. That's what I believe.
Never. Never in a million years.
After 3 months in the desert, Buchanan had a serious urinary tract infection. And in a final call to the hostage negotiator, she said this.
I'd become so ill that I couldn't stand up. I couldn't walk. I was in so much pain. And I said, I think I have a kidney infection. And I started to cry and I said, I'm afraid I'm going to die out here.
When that call was received here in Nairobi, it set off a chain of events that led all the way to the Oval Office. The FBI and the military consulted doctors who said that if Jessica had a kidney infection, she might have just 2 weeks to live. That was transmitted to the president, who was also informed that in just a few days, there would be a new moon. Perfect darkness for a SEAL team rescue.
I love full darkness. It gave me this real buzz of utilizing our skills, our drills, our equipment to a degree that the enemy probably had no idea that we had that capability. I used to love going on complete blackout patrols. It's a shame that in like a 7-month period you might only get 8, if even. So yeah, it's just one of those things. You using your black lights, your black light laser, so they're on the infrared spectrum, so you can't see them with the naked eye. Just being able to patrol up the enemy positions from not far away. been a little bit of a dip, but we went out one night with a guy from the SF, much as I'm going to say, from the SF, who was attached into our team, and just watching how well rehearsed and how natural the skills were in complete black. It just made you realize how much time and dedication they spend getting those kind of things right. It was phenomenal to watch it. Yeah, it was a buzz. Even though it was a quiet patrol, it was an absolute buzz just being out with an operator who worked at that level. It was unreal.
Jessica Buchanan had chosen a star in the Somali sky to represent her mother, who had passed away a year before. She spoke to it every night, and with no moon, it was especially bright on January 25th.
What did you say that night?
Please tell God that I need some help. We need to get out of here.
You couldn't have known that prayer would be answered that night.
I had no idea.
She was on a mat trying to sleep when she heard a faint scratching noise. One of the bandits she nicknamed Helper heard it too.
And I see this look of just sheer terror on Helper's face.
This is money. This is absolute money. Just thinking about being those troops, those tier 1 troops, mooching, getting closer and closer, probably seeing lots of signs of activity, a little bit of movement. They must have been absolutely buzzing off the back of this. They are going to get one of their own. They've got a young female hostage being held, and they are advancing towards the position where she is. The hairs are standing on the back of my neck.
And then all of a sudden, it's just this eruption of gunfire. And I think, okay, well, this is it. This really is truly the end. And I cover up with my blanket again, and I just start saying, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I just remember thinking, or maybe I'm saying out loud, like, I cannot survive this.
She thought she was being taken by a rival group, maybe Al-Shabaab, Islamic extremists who would surely kill her.
They would absolutely, yeah, kill her and then some.
And then all of a sudden, I feel all these hands on me, roughly grabbing at me. And I try to protect myself, and I pull the blanket closer on top of me, and then I hear my name. But it's not a Somali accent, it's an American accent.
Been hostage for months. You're very sick, massive infection, got very short space to live. You've been completely exposed from being out in the elements. You've got one familiar voice in a group of very, very horrible people. And next thing you know, at night, you hear a scratch, a load of gunfire, and you've got these gentle hands on you, speaking with an American accent. My life. I just cannot imagine what this young lady was going through at that point. We're going to hear a little bit of her thought process, or lack of thought process, but this is the stuff the films are made of, isn't it?
And I can't compute, like I can't understand that somebody with an American accent knows my name. And they say, Jessica, we're with the American military. We're here to take you home, and you're safe. And I pull the blanket down from my face, and all I see is black masks, black sky, and all I can say over and over is, you're American. You're American. I don't understand. You're Americans. Thinking, how did you get here? And I'm still alive. And they ask me where my shoes are, and I don't know. And one of them picks me up and starts running. He runs for several minutes, and it puts me down on the ground. And then they identify themselves, and that they knew I was very sick. And they have medicine, and they have water, they have food.
It's incredible, isn't it? So even though they're going into a high threat hostage rescue, they're still carrying equipment for her. So I think medicine for her. So I think that displays the level of concern there were for her medical health. If they are treating her there and then on that ground, for they, I suppose it's a great contingency, because if they can't get their exfil, then they'll still be able to treat her and look after her if they're still on the ground. So there is that, but it sounds like they were pretty confident they would get her right there and then, but they still wanted to treat her. She must have been so sick, so sick.
And they've come to take me home. At one point, I think they thought they heard something, or I don't know. This group of men who's risked their life for me already asks me to lie down on the ground because they're concerned that there might be someone out there, and then they make a circle around me, and then they lie down on top of me to protect me. And we lay like that until the helicopters come in.
When all of those SEALs laid down on top of you, you were the most important thing in the world to them.
It's really hard to comprehend.
They were going to take a bullet for you.
Mm-hmm. And they're so kind, and they're so gentle, and they are trying to assist me to get to the helicopter. But I think I've been out here for months. I can run to this helicopter myself, and so I just break away and I just take off running through the scrub, through the bush, and I throw myself onto that helicopter and push myself up against the wall.
Just to recap on this, because it hasn't come up and I heard it in the last video that went wrong. But this was an airborne insurgent. These tier 1 troops, they parachuted in to rescue her, and it just makes you think of the chain, everything that was going on in the background that led to this very successful rescue mission. The intelligence they must have had, a confirmation of her being on the ground in order for them to deliberately fly over a foreign nation, drop troops in, undershoot, have them advance the contact in the middle of an open area, and to be able to pick up the hostages, take them back, get on helos. I'm imagining they would have dropped into Kenya. Kenya's just on the border with Somalia, isn't it? I think it is. I think it's just like the southwest. But all of these things, they were so committed, so confident, and wanted to get her home. They absolutely launched it. That's unbelievable. If I've got anything wrong, please write it in the comments below, and I'll pin your comment so that we can all understand it a little bit better. But wow, that's just unbelievable. And I don't just have like the respect for the troops on the ground. Every person in that chain, all the way from the charity hostage negotiator, all the way right up to, ultimately, I imagine it was your president who gave the green light for this. Fair one. Absolutely amazing.
And I don't start breathing until we actually lift up off the ground. And they hand me an American flag that's folded.
What did you think of that?
I just started to cry. At that point in time, I have never in my life been so proud and so very happy to be an American.
The SEALs left on other helicopters. She didn't see their faces, didn't hear their names. They appeared, and they were gone.
Kind of surprised they left on a separate helicopter, because I was under the opinion that her being the principal, they would stay with her until she was in extremely safe hands, and to me, being on a separate helo still in a hostile nation, that wouldn't really be secure. So I wonder if she's got it right. That's probably just her recollection of the situation. Probably doesn't match the reality.
The only thing left in the camp were 9 dead bandits.
What a shame.
Mr. Speaker!
It all ended just hours before the State of the Union address. As the president walked in, he had a secret with Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. that almost no one understood until later.
Good job.
Hillary Clinton. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I was actually on a commercial flight with Hillary Clinton. I was out working in Newark, and I was doing a bit of a talk out there. I actually at the same event, the two talkers, it was me and Captain Sullenberger, Silly. So yeah, it was a bit of a starstruck weekend kind of thing for me, for starstruck week. And I got on the flight and I was sitting, and I'd been paid business class by the company who I was talking for. And I was sat there, and the next minute I seen these guys coming on, kind of navy blazers, chinos, little badge, and I was looking at them, and I thought, that looks like Secret Service. So I text my mates and my military pals, and I was like, looks like Secret Service are sweeping my flight. And back in 2005, I'd been part of a close protection team, so I was the force multiple that supported this close protection team in Iraq. We were looking after the brigade commander out there. So I knew kind of what close protection drills looked like. I knew what sweep looked like. I knew what everybody getting in. And I was just watching them and thinking, they're running through their actual drills here. And my mates were like, nah, you wouldn't have that. And the next minute, Hillary Clinton walks on the flight. And I'll put up some photos. And one of the Secret Service guys walks down, and he walked past my chair. She came in, she sat actually in the seat in front of me with her PA beside her, and then the Secret Service agent sat beside me, and he looked at me and he put his hand out and he went, "Thank you for your service." And I was just there like, they have me pinged, they have me profiled, everything is going on here. So I had a bit of a chat with him. He was ex-military himself, and then as the flight took off and we were up and cruising and stuff, everybody was going and like having a chat, you know, all of the air stewardesses, some people in business class around us. And then the Secret Service guy turned around and says, "Would you like a chat, Hillary?" And I went, "Nah." He went, "Can I ask you why?" And I went, "It's not politics. It's not about a party. It's not about anything like that." I said, "I've just watched Benghazi, and I have absolutely no interest and understand." That was it. I had no interest talking to Hillary Clinton after Benghazi. And as I say, it's not politics, not the party, it's not nothing like that. I think if you say you're going to look after your troops, you have to look after them, even if it's PMCs, the military contractors. Yeah, there was no way I was shaking her hand or sharing pleasantries with that lady. Me, based on morals. Morals, not morals, morals. That's my medication.
After the speech, President Obama called Buchanan's father. Jessica met her husband, Eric, at a U.S. base in Italy.
I just couldn't believe he was standing there and that I was standing there. And we had a second chance. And then later we flew to Portland, Oregon, and I was reunited with my father and my brother and my sister and her husband.
What was the first thing you said to your father?
Daddy. And I'm so sorry that you had to go through this. But we made it.
So did her Danish co-worker, Paul Fisted, who was also rescued by the SEALs.
I'm glad they put that in at the end. They hadn't mentioned them throughout the whole rescue. Amazing job by the SEALs. Tier 1 troops. We just don't know their capability, and I'm glad we don't know, because, yeah, it's just incredible what they do. Absolutely incredible. I love it. So glad they're on our side. Guys, thanks very much for checking in. Apologies that it's been a bit of a delay, but as you know, bit of equipment malfunction on equipment. My new CPU should be arriving this week, therefore easier to make videos, less time invested, and hopefully a little bit better quality. So thanks once again for checking in, and I'll see you very soon. Have a good one.